Hello everyone, my name is Pat and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you guys my 2018 top favorite books. Now, before we start, I just want to say the sun decided to come out all of a sudden, so now I'm like blinded. So if you see some parts that are very bright and that starts to move as we go along in this video, please ignore. So for the year of 2018, I read a total of 101 books, and out of 101 books I will be sharing you guys 16 books. I didn't try to make this 18 or try to make it less, or these are just the 16 books that really left a mark to me. Now, these are not necessarily like the most beautifully written or the most amazing in plot and amazing characters and all that. Well, most of them are. I'm not saying that they're like bad books. Well, these are my favorite books, but these are the books that left a mark on me this year as I read them. Like, whenever I recall reading them, I'm just like, oh, yeah, I love that book. So, without further ado, let's get started. These are not in any particular order. I like went through all of my books and tried to see what I remembered reading and just really I liked. So, let's get started. I have my laptop right here, so if I'm looking, you probably can see a little bit of it. I'm looking at my notes. So the first book that I'm going to share with you is Our Dark Duet by V. Schwab. This is the second book in the Monsters of Verity series. Now, I love the first book when it came out in 2017, and I remember really loving it. And that was, I think, that was definitely the first Victoria Schwab book that I've ever read. And I don't really remember why I did not immediately read this after it came out. But I mean, I read it in the beginning of 2018. But I love this book. I mean, I have grown to really love Yushwa's writing, especially reading the first book and then this sequel. And I also read Vengeful from her as well, and I've also read Fishes. So I just love this book. The world is amazing. It's not like a very dense book, even though it's like set in a sort of dystopian sci-fi-ish more fantasy setting. It doesn't really dwell into world building. We'll definitely get that, but it focuses more on the characters that we have, which are Kate and August. And Kate and August are my children. I love them. Okay. I love their relationship with each other. I love them as individuals, as characters. They're very different, but at the same time, just I love them so much. I highly recommend this book. Well, all of these books I highly recommend because these are my favorite books. The second book is One Dark Throne by Kendar Blake. This is the second book in the Three Dark Crown series by Kendar Blake. I also read the third book, but I didn't really enjoy the third book. I felt like nothing really happened, but the second book is amazing. This is almost as good as the first one, I have to say. I love the first one. I mean, we get a lot more in the second book, like in terms of plot progression, but the world building is just I love it. They're very close. Okay, I still really love this book. Kendar Blake's writing is so captivating. She really takes you from here to her world, and I love that. And the three sisters, I've heard some people say that they don't really care about the sisters. I do. I care about them. No, their relationship, the three of them, is so complicated. I mean, they were together until they were like 6, I think, and then they grew apart, and they were taught that each other were enemies, and they eventually had to kill each other to get the throne. And I want all of them to have a happy ending. All of them. Yes, all of them. All 3 of them. I cannot wait to read the last book. That third book, I want to forget that third book because nothing happens. Like, a few things happen, but I felt like it didn't deserve a whole book. Like, it could have been added to the second book, or probably the last book. It could have been a good trilogy. I don't, in my personal opinion, So, this is the second book. The third book that I'm going to share with you guys is very famous in booktube and just in general. This is a book that is loved by many, and that is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I have been wanting to read this book for a few years now, especially ever since Reagan shared it on her channel of Peruse Project, shared it on her channel, saying that it's one of her favorite books, if not her number one favorite book. I might be, remembering that wrong. But this book is so beautiful. This is narrated by Death. So yeah, it's poignant and captivating, the story. Now, I cried so hard reading this book. And I also watched the movie and I cried so hard too. The movie is good. Definitely the book is better usually. But the movie is still really, really good. I still cried a lot. I think this is good. I mean, this could be considered as a classic now. Book Thief. Everybody loves it. And it captured my heart. I love the writing. You would think that it's very dark, being as it is narrated by Death, but it's not. I mean, it is still a little bit dark, especially since it is the perspective of Death, and you witness a lot more people dying, and he's telling you about the souls that she already acquired throughout his existence. It's a story of life, even though it's narrated by Death, and it's just that's beautiful. The next book is Everything I Never Told You by Celestine. And this is another book that is quite sad because it's dealing about a family. It's telling the story of a family who lost one of the daughters, and it's their relationships between each other and what could possibly have happened during that time or with the daughter, and how she died and how it probably came to be, and just their relationships with each other. It's heartbreaking. This isn't a very fast read. Well, it is for me because I devoured the book, but it's not like the shortest book. It's very dense. There's a lot of topics that we talk about, and I loved how it showed the complexity of human beings and their relationships. It doesn't paint the world necessarily as pessimistic, but more realistic for me, in my opinion. As much as we want goodness and happiness in this world, there's always going to be bad things. But in the story, despite of all those bad things happening, you still feel hope, and a lot of bad circumstances and bad people. I think I personally think it's because of those bad things that make you feel hope, because you know that if there's darkness light. So the fifth book that I'm going to share with you is a non-fiction book. It's not this is Dear Joelle, or a Feminist Manifesto and 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Now, this is a very short book. This is pretty much just, and it's really, really small. Look at it compared to my hand. It's an email of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie to a friend, asking her how she can raise her daughter as a feminist. And I read it in one sitting. It's really good. I borrowed it from the library, and I bought a copy of my own because I needed it. If you're a feminist, or you're not really a feminist, you don't think you're ever going to be a feminist, read this book. You will get a new perspective on feminism, because over the years, the word feminism, that term, has been changed into something that it's not. People see it as a negative thing to be, and it's not. It doesn't have to be women, and it's not about being or wanting women to be on top or powerful. It's about equality and fairness. And if you want to know more about being a feminist or feminism, if you just read this is good. I don't have words. I will strive to follow all of the things that she says here. These are all suggestions. I think she says in the beginning, these are suggestions. However you want to raise your kid is going to be up to you. It's your kid, etc., etc. And the same thing, these are suggestions. 15 suggestions is in the title. It doesn't have to be something that you follow. It's not a law. And this is her own perspective and how she views feminists and how she is a feminist. So highly, highly, highly recommend. I wish I had read this like years ago. Definitely would taught me a lot. So yeah, the next book that I'm going to talk about is The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. This book is so good. Yeah, it is about Harry August, who lives his life over and over again. And it's not just about, resetting. He remembers everything that happens in his past life. Like the life that he lived. And it keeps going, going, going. And you can imagine how crazy that is. So it's hard to do a premise as something like this because it's very complex. And you're talking about living a full life and then starting over with the wisdom of that previous life and the previous lives before that and all that. It's complex, it's intricate. This book is all of that. We're able to see how Harry August changed throughout his lives. The world in itself feels so rich and lived in, and Harry August and the people around him, their choices and how the events came to pass felt so organic and real. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like, the author just decided, oh, this is gonna happen. This is like the most fun and the most, adventurous trope. We didn't get that. It feels very organic and real, and there's a lot of things that happen. Obviously, I mean, it is in the course of a lot of lives. So yeah, and this is about how he lives his life normally after a few years, and then one day on his, I think, 14th or 13th life, a girl comes up to him and tells him that the world is ending and he needs to do something about it. So he's saving the world too and living his life. The next book that I really loved in 2018, and this is not surprising, a lot of people love this book, and it's been going around YouTube for the past few months, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is very hyped, and I can tell that the hype is real. It's really, really, really good, and I think this is one of those really hyped books that probably most people, if not all people who actually read it in booktube, loved. So that's, saying something. This is about Evelyn Hugo, and one day she approaches this journalist and tells her that she wants her to write her biography. And there's a lot of questions around that. Why is she suddenly talking about her life? And especially, notoriously, she's known for having 7 husbands throughout her life, which is very Elizabeth Taylor. So it raises a lot of questions when she approaches this journalist out of the blue, because this journalist isn't very known, and she's suddenly saying, oh, I'm gonna tell my whole life story. So there's that, and getting to know Evelyn Hugo, she feels so real, and she makes a lot of these decisions that not a lot of people would think are good decisions, or like decisions made by kind, good people. But she's the kind of person who does what she needs to do to achieve her goals, and you don't really see that a lot in like main protagonists. It's usually main protagonists are like the nicest, kindest people, and it's just refreshing to see, especially in a setting that it's like contemporary, or in this world, in our world right now, and it's not fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. She isn't the most likable character, but I still love her. She's just a strong woman, and as you get to know her, you fall in love with her, and you don't really ask her for fault. She's a human being. She's gonna make mistakes. She's making mistakes, and it's just, I loved it. And you definitely get to know more of the journalist, so why Evelyn Hugo picked this particular journalist and her story as well. The next book that I'm sharing with you guys is The Night Film by Marisha Puzzle. This is another really, really dense but beautiful written, captivating book. Right off the bat, it gives you that really eerie vibes. It transports you to this world where it's very eerie and moody and mysterious, and I'm all for it. This is about a journalist as well, and he is very famous for investigating and writing articles about this very famous horror film director who's very reclusive as well. And this director's daughter dies, and the director's already dead. And this director is known for his very gory films. A lot of his films are banned because it's like it's too much for people. So his daughter dies, and there's a lot of mysterious circumstances around that because her daughter commits suicide. And this journalist, because he is very much interested and he's very famous for writing a lot of risque articles about the director, he decides to investigate the death of this director's daughter. And we get to know more about this director who isn't very known by a lot of people, who we hear a lot of different stories about him. He has a website dedicated to him, and it's very secretive. There's codes, there's passwords, all of that. It's amazing, and I love how this is really told in like the traditional format. We get like articles and interviews as well as some website screenshots and pictures. I really enjoyed this book. Definitely not like there's certain parts of this book that I think probably we don't really, you can get away with. We don't really need. It made it even longer than it already was, but I still really love this book. I still really enjoyed it. It's so beautiful. And Marisha Puzzle is not one of my favorite authors, even though this is like only two of the books that I've read from her. I think she's only released those two books, but I really enjoyed her other book, Never Woldwick. So yeah, I love this book. So moody, so eerie, such a ride. Love. The ninth book that I'm going to share with you guys is The Illuminate Files by J. Kristoff and Mamie Kaufman. This is a part of a series. I'm talking about the whole series, the Illuminate series. And gosh, I mean, what do you say? It's so good. This is so much fun. This is a sci-fi book. It's YA. It's set in space. And it's so fun. And the characters, we get a slew of different characters that they don't feel like copies of each other or like forced to be different from each other. They're a variety of different characters, and we follow them throughout the series, and they're protagonists in their own stories. And I really enjoy this book a lot. This is another book that isn't told in traditional format. Like we get surveillance footage like narrations, interviews, articles as well, even some drawings. I really enjoy this book. Now the thing about sci-fi is that when it gets like too scientific for me, like it's mostly when it's like sci-fi that's set in like space or it's about space and all that, it gets too scientific for me and it goes over my head. I don't really enjoy the book, and that's what happens with The Martian. That's why I didn't read it. I didn't finish it. But this one, there's a lot of scientific stuff still, but it didn't take away from the book the fact that I'm not really good with understanding scientific facts like that. It didn't really take away from my experience. So I still really love this book. I'm waiting for the next book that's something like this because it's so much fun to read. I really just enjoyed it. So the next book is unsurprising, to be completely honest, and that is this book, Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. The last book in the Throne of Glass series. I love this series. I mean, it has its faults. It's not perfect. But I really, really enjoyed this book. I cried so much, okay, while reading this. I didn't really expect that. I knew it was going to be emotional since it is the last book and this is where everything pretty much goes down. But still, wow. I'm not the kind of person who reads books as they come out in a series. I like binge reading books. So after I read the first 3 books, I stopped reading. And then I read the next 4 books in the series in the last 2-3 months of this year before this came out. As I said, we don't really have the smooth sailing with this book. There are bumps along the way. That's not really the right way to say it, especially when I said sailing. But you know what? You get what I mean. But it's still such a fun read. It's a beautiful YA fantasy. More adult, I think, because it does have a lot of those kind of scenes. It's so heartbreaking, everything that happened here, but it's still really, really beautiful and it warms my heart. So, okay, if I look a little pink, that's because my curtains are pink and it's too bright that I need to like put something. I'm like, I can't see anything, so sorry about that. Anyway, the next book that I'm going to talk about is Vengeful by V. Schwab. Another V. Schwab book in this top books of 2018. Now, I would say this second book and the Vicious duology, I like this a little bit more. However, that's not to say that the first book is bad. It's just that, or not, this book is like way, like so much better. They're close. The premise that we get is not necessarily, I don't think this is a spoiler, but you know, I find that we don't really get much, like a lot of it. I feel like I wanted to focus on that part of the plot a little bit more, but also the other plots. I kind of like going back and forth because I really love those two parts of this book, and especially when they combine. And I really enjoy this book. V. Schwab's writing, as I said, is very beautiful. One of my favorite authors now, really. So much has happened. It's a masterpiece. I mean, it's as expected from V. Schwab. So the next book that I'm going to share is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily Danforth. This book, I did not love this immediately. Like the first half, I was like, oh, this is too long. There's a lot of things happening, and there's a lot of things going on that I feel like we don't really need. But eventually, after that, I would kind of like, oh yeah, we need all those things because it is a dense book. There's a lot of things happening, and this is about Cameron Post, who, after the death of her parents in a car crash, she goes to live with her aunt and grandmother. And when her aunt discovers that she's gay, she sends her to a reformation camp. And this is about her story. We're focusing on Cameron and who she is as a person and just her struggles. And we go back and forth in events as well in this book. You know, the past and how Cameron's doing now, what she's doing right now. And my heart aches for everything that she goes through. I mean, it's not easy losing her parents and then, you know, her next closest relatives is deciding to send her to a reformation camp after finding out she's gay. It's a lot. I haven't seen the movie. I'm planning on, you know, watching it pretty soon, but I love how the people in this story aren't painted in like, oh, the good people and bad people, or the people that you love and the people that you don't really like, but it's not black and white, you know, it's not exactly in the middle. You can love these people with their faults, and even, you know, despite of the things that they decide and the things that they choose and all that. And it's one of those things that it's really just about the people around you and the people who influence you and care about you and you love as well. So just, this book is very beautiful. If you haven't read it, go read it. I'm gonna watch the movie soon. Alright, so the 13th book, we're nearing the end, is Ready Player One by by Ernest Cline. I don't know why he sounds like that. Ernest Cline. Now, this book has been going around BookTube. This is very popular, especially a few years ago in BookTube. A lot of people love this book, and I love this book as well, obviously. Now, the reason why I didn't really get into this book until now is because this is about gaming and gamers. I'm not a gamer. I'm actually very bad at gaming. I don't really play a lot of games at all. So I thought that this wasn't going to be something that I would enjoy. But I still did. And I heard that the audiobook is really good. That's why I actually read this like 99% audiobook. I probably read like a page or two ebook, but you know, 99% audiobook. I didn't really enjoy the audiobook. It was so much fun. I flew through this. I mean, I will definitely read the physical form of this one day. I will buy my own copy. That's how much I really enjoyed it. And I will also watch the movie because I already have it. I just need to watch it, as well as Miseducation. You know, I really enjoyed this book. If you haven't read it, read it. Read it. It's like one of those modern classics as well. So the next book that I'm going to talk about is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Henry Signs. This book. This is another book that a lot of people talk about, especially a few years ago, like maybe couple of years ago. And this is about Aristotle and Dante and their relationship, how they grow up, and this is beautiful. It's beautiful. I just love the characters in this book. We don't really get like a bad person, good person kind of thing here. All of the pretty much all of the characters in this book I love. Like, they're very dear to me. Like, they're precious. I want to keep them forever. I'm definitely gonna, buy a physical copy of this book someday and reread it. I love the story. I mean, we don't have that dynamic of good and bad, and our protagonist against someone. It's more of just their growth, and I don't really read a lot of contemporary, but the thing is, if I find a really good contemporary that really focuses on the people and humanity and just that's really what makes me like contemporaries like this, especially coming of age stories. That's why I really love Aristotle and Dante. Another one of one would I want to be a modern classic. So, all right, the second classic that we're going to talk about is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Oh, this is another beautifully written book. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is post-apocalyptic. It's not dystopian, it's post-apocalyptic. It happens after pretty much most of the humanity died after a certain disease killed them. The thing about this book is that it doesn't really dwell on the future in a dystopian manner. Like, we're not talking about how a government is reformed, all of that. We're talking about a few years after, like, I think 5 to 10 years after the world pretty much ended, and we're seeing how the people are reeling from that experience. We also go back and forth in the before, the past of some of the characters, and as well as the right before, like as it's happening before it reaches them, and immediately after. Pretty much they realize that the world is ending, and then a few years after that. But the thing is, the before and after kind of flashbacks, they're not comparisons between what's happening now and what was before. It's not comparisons of how the world was working before and how the world was working now. It's more of just their story, and I love. The focus is people, and that's it, and that's why I love it. The focus is on the people and their experiences, not necessarily the world, and how it works and the government, all that. It's not. It's about the people, their survival, and one thing that would summarize this book is a quote that is used in the book as well. That is from Star Trek: The Voyager, which is survival is insufficient. I think that summarizes this book really well. Survival is insufficient. It's not just about being alive, but it's also living, and we see how they live after and right after the world pretty much. Okay, so the last book that we're going to talk about is We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson, and this is about a teenage boy who gets abducted by aliens periodically, and one day he's given an ultimatum. The aliens tell him that the world is ending in 144 days, and all he needs to do to save the world is to press this big red button. And, well, he doesn't really press it. Like, okay, we're gonna need time to think. And the thing is, there's a lot of things happening with his life on top of being abducted by aliens. His mother is a struggling waitress who is also a chain smoker. His brother is a college dropout who got someone pregnant, and his grandmother is suffering from Alzheimer's. And the last one is that his boyfriend committed suicide last year. So there's a lot of things going on in his life right now, on top of getting abducted by aliens, and now he's given this choice to save the world or not. And the thing is, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but I liked how his reasons for either pressing or not pressing the button, ultimately, it's very grounded and real. It doesn't feel so life-changing and, this whole amazing revelation. It felt so natural and organic, and just, it's not super life changing. It doesn't have to be. You just have to. You just need to have reasons to not press the button in the end for him, you know. And the thing is, this book made me laugh. Like the first 2 pages after, just it made me laugh so hard because the character, even though he's, he's not, the most optimistic person, but he has an amazing sense of humor. That's why I keep laughing throughout this book, even though there's a lot of things happening that are pretty heavy and dark. This is another book that is very character. We're really focusing on the characters, and I love it. I am someone who studied psychology in college, and that's why I really appreciate it when the person feels so real and organic, and the decisions that he's making don't feel forced, or he's going through a lot, and how that affects him and how he decides to react and all that. That's why I'm so interested in the characters as well. So yeah. We are done. Those are all the 16 books that I loved for this year. Yeah, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. My throat hurts. I will be filming my 2018 reading wrap up and 2019 reading goals next. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out some of my other videos right here, and I will see you on my next one. Bye.